The time has come for the concluding talk of this Teachers of God's Word District Convention. We have been well nourished by an abundance of scriptural thoughts and practical counsel. Now, with anticipation, we look forward to hearing again from Brother J.R. Brown from Brooklyn Bethel and the concluding talk, which is entitled, Urgently Fulfilling Our Teaching Commission. Brother Brown.
For these past 3 days, we've focused much attention on our divine teaching commission. And the driving point here was that fulfillment of this was certainly a most urgent work. But now specifically, what do we mean by commission and our having a divine teaching commission? Listen to one formal definition of the word commission. And it says it is a formal written warrant granting the power to perform various acts or duties, an authorization or command to act in a prescribed manner or to perform prescribed acts. So now, in view of this, we might then just ask ourselves if we have such a commission that harmonizes with the various elements given in this dictionary formal definition. Well, now, open your Bible to Matthew chapter 28, and let's compare what Jesus said there with the various elements involved in this English language word commission. Matthew 28, let's make one final review of this so as to embed the points in our mind. Now, starting at verse 18, we read, And Jesus approached and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, and make disciples of people of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all the things I have commanded you. And look, I am with you all the days until the conclusion of the system of things. Well, now, we see the comparison is very favorable. First of all, it's written. And how glad we are that these important words were included as part of this great gospel. And then it told specifically what acts were to be performed. He said, go, make disciples. And then he said they were to be taught in a very prescribed manner. It said, teaching them to observe all the things I have commanded you. So it was specific, and it was by someone with authority who could command this, because Jesus said, all authority has been given me. So clearly, when we speak of ourselves as having a teaching commission, it fulfills accurately all of the elements embraced in this word. But now, how has this convention affected our divine teaching commission? Well, we can certainly say it has added import to it. In other words, we see it in a better perspective. We see it as more urgent. We see it as more important now. And we see the need for many, many more of us to become teachers. This is an important aspect of this particular commission that we are given. It's part of our work. As brought out, yes, we're witnessing and preaching this good news of the kingdom, but in view of the time, and Jesus said, I am with you all the days until the conclusion of this system of things, then it becomes important that more become teachers so as to help all of those who want to observe the things that he has taught. And clearly, brothers and sisters, as emphasized as part of our program these past few days, the fulfillment of Bible prophecies show that we are living in the time of the end. And therefore, this convention has helped us to feel the urgency, even more so, to become teachers and take our share in fulfilling this divine teaching commission. Well, now, have we been impressed with the thought that after hearing all of this excellent instruction from the faithful slave that we may have to make adjustments, that some adjustments may be necessary to respond more fully to the commission that has taken on a greater sense of urgency? Well, you know, the Apostle Paul set the example for us in this, that is willing to make adjustments in harmony with his circumstance. Turn to Acts chapter 18. And there is a point there at verse number 5 that really can affect all of us today, and that sets a very good example. Acts 18, verse 5. Now, follow along. It says, "When now both Silas and Timothy came down from Macedonia, Paul began to be intensely occupied with the word, witnessing to the Jews to prove that Jesus is the Christ." Now, note very carefully, it said Paul became intensely occupied with the word. We knew what he was doing, carrying out the commission to preach to the Jews there. But now, what's meant by being intensely occupied? Literally, the expression means Paul held himself to the word. Or, as some translations express it, he devoted himself exclusively to preaching and teaching. But now, we still could ask, well, how did the coming down from Macedonia of Silas and Timothy alter Paul's situation so that, as we read there, he began to be intensely occupied with the word? In other words, the implication being that maybe he was not doing it as much before they came. What happened with their occurrence? Well, in addition to bringing him some good words of encouragement, they brought him from the congregation in Philippi a money gift. And when Paul received these funds to help him in his work, well, he looked at this as an opportunity to just continue regularly making tents, and that now he was free from having to earn a living, and so he could devote himself exclusively to the work of preaching and teaching, thus becoming intensely occupied with the world. Well, now, what a good example for all of us that is. It means that we need to regularly examine our situation to see if circumstances have changed so that maybe now we need to make an adjustment in order to maximize our participation in the ministry. It might occur in other ways, too, because maybe it's possible that the situation in our own life could force an early retirement, drop down from a 2 or 3 income household to a 1 income household. Maybe full-time work could be cut to part-time. There are scores of ways that this could be done, but the principle is there. If the situation that we face is altered, then use that as Paul did when it told us that he began to be intensely occupied with the word, or exclusively devoted to us. That's what this convention has helped us to do. It has helped us to be more determined than ever to take our full share in participating in this teaching commission. Now, what we liked about the program, too, is the fact that it stressed what this commission involves. Now, going back to Friday's theme and what was highlighted there, was built around 2 Timothy 3, 16 and 17. And the key parts there focused on were, all Scripture is beneficial for teaching. And that was where we focused on Friday. In other words, right from the opening talk, the point was made very clearly that if we're going to progress as teachers, we've got to be instructed. You're not going to be able to use the scriptures in a way that will take full advantage of what we do in this commission if we're not instructed. So we were encouraged to get something out of this convention, to pile it up in a container or a basket of some sort, get a lot of good things, take this instruction that we need, and then move right ahead as we leave from here, dispersing it to others in harmony with what Jesus said. Go, therefore, and make disciples. Now, the keynote address picked this up again when it focused on God's Word provides the basis for our teaching. And if we use God's Word, all Scriptures inspired of God, and all of these provisions made by Jehovah's organization, then we're going to be completely equipped as teachers of God's Word. We appreciated also the symposium on Friday, teaching ourselves while teaching others. And this showed us very clearly we do not want to make ourselves so that we're hypocritical in our presentations. It's not going to do much good if we're out expending ourselves in this teaching commission, benefiting others, and not taking the time to teach ourselves. So time needs to be taken to read and study God's Word to make sure we're taught properly. Now, our instruction on Friday included, among other things, a powerful talk on the need to avoid pornography. Abhor the worldly plague of pornography. And it is a plague. And Satan is trying to infiltrate elements of this among God's people so as to weaken their spirituality. Because he realizes if he can weaken spirituality, then that can affect our preaching and teaching work. Because it is strong persons spiritually who are able to forge right ahead in the preaching and teaching work. So we do not want to fall into the trap thinking that this is not something that is very serious, or if in some way we would prefer to be titillated by what is offered there on the internet and various other places where pornography is featured, that it is not harming us and affecting our teaching commission. And then Friday we concluded with the talk, Jehovah beautifies his people with light. And how wonderful it was to review Isaiah chapter 60 and clearly see how Jehovah is continuing to give light to his people today, and that it will not stop. He will continue to do so as he moves us along rapidly toward the wind-up of this system of things. Now on Saturday, the key text there, as you recall, was 2 Timothy 2:2. And the part of that text we focused on was being adequately qualified to teach others. Now this was encouraging because first of all, it underscored the fact that we are qualified as teachers. And we are because Jehovah has instructed us not only in the content of this message, but he's also given us the mechanics of how to do this teaching. That was an excellent symposium Saturday morning, and it showed we need to do our part in searching out deserving ones. Then when we find them, cultivate their interests, and then go back and teach them to observe all the things that Christ commanded, and basically and essentially that means, if they're willing, to conduct a home Bible study. The program in the afternoon showed very clearly that to become more effective as teachers, we need to know Christ better in order to imitate him, and the things that he has taught us, that we need to make application of them, and that a key thing was that he was willing to serve others. He did not come here to be ministered to. He came here to minister and to serve, and that was vividly portrayed. And good admonition was given us not to allow the excesses of the world to consume our attention so that we feel there is no time to serve others as Jesus did. In particular, mention was made of recreation, pleasure, entertainment. These have become the big things in the lives of most persons in the world, and unfortunately, it has captivated the interests of some among us, many young persons in particular. So there is need for some, if they're going to move ahead with this teaching commission, to come to grips that as Jesus came here to serve and to minister to others, that one's time cannot be devoted exclusively, that is free time, evenings, weekends, to the recreational things offered by the world. Remember when Paul was there, as we read, it says he was intensely occupied with the Word, meaning he was exclusively devoted to preaching and teaching the Word. He seized the opportunity in order to do so. So Saturday's program equipped us in that way, and then we heard about this fine new provision that we eagerly look forward to using soon, and that is the new Theocratic Ministry School publication. And of course, we certainly look forward to more details and the use of that in the future. Now, today's program certainly brought things to an excellent conclusion. We focused on Hebrews 5:12, and we were asked to seriously take a good look at ourselves and ask ourselves, if in view of the time that I've known the truth in Jehovah's mercy, ought I to be a teacher of God's Word? And it showed very clearly from that text, too, that teachers of God's Word eat solid spiritual food. And by taking in that solid spiritual food and absorbing it, that they are then able to progress and actually become teachers. Now, solid spiritual food was definitely offered today. And by solid spiritual food, we mean advanced instruction. The symposium this morning, straightforward, right to the point, showed Jehovah's requirements. It showed what he hates. And clearly, he hates treachery. He hates deceit. He hates dishonesty. He hates doing things in an underhanded way. And it showed what it's going to take in order to survive the end of this world. It showed very clearly it's going to take our giving of our best. And when we think of this great commission, divine commission, given to us by Jehovah God through his Son Jesus Christ, we want to do our best. And it's becoming more and more evident. It was emphasized from the book of Malachi that we will see the distinction between one who is serving God and one who is not serving him. And that conduct is involved too. We'll see the distinction between a righteous one and a wicked one. So Jehovah is making very clear who is really preparing themselves to survive this great day, who is doing so by serving him, participating fully in this grand commission, and who is living in harmony with the principles in his word, the Bible, and actually serving him and not just making a pretense at doing so or giving token service. The drama was very convincing also. And basically it emphasized why we must respect Jehovah's authority. And Jehovah's authority is expressed through his earthly organization, and proper respect and loyalty should be shown toward those Jehovah uses. The follow-up talk to the drama brought home very important principles. Loyal submission is needed to godly authority, whether it's in the family, by way of the parents, or whether it's in the congregation by way of appointed elders and servants, that the important thing is not to take a human view of these and somehow thinking because of their imperfections, they do not fully represent Jehovah. Such authority should be submitted to. And just before the part here, we very much appreciated how the public talk fit right into the theme that we've carried this weekend. When there it made very clearly that Jehovah's Witnesses are really the ones teaching all nations. It's not the clergy of Christendom. They're not producing these disciples. And the contrast is very evident. So these 3 days have certainly been magnificent days in driving home force and impact of our commission to preach. And of course, all of it was made possible by a good convention organization. And we certainly do appreciate the brothers and sisters that did the work. Much of it hard physical work to make it possible, so that you'll know it was 4,638 of them that did the job. Now, we're getting results in our teaching work, and we saw that forcefully come to our attention on Saturday, and it moved our hearts to see all of these brothers and sisters coming out of the darkness of this old world, coming into the light. And right before our eyes, we saw Saturday baptized 59 sisters, 38 brothers, total 97 new witnesses of God. There is a constant flow of good spiritual things from the faithful and discreet slave, many of these in the way of publications and other provisions. And these are certainly going to enhance our teaching. For example, we very happily received the release of Isaiah's prophecy, Light to All Mankind, Volume 2, and that took up chapters 41 to 66. Let's get down to reading these right away, because how are they going to help us? They're going to help us, as Paul emphasized, to become full-grown in powers of understanding. That publication represents solid food. Those taking in solid foods are the ones who are going to do the teaching and move forward in the work and commission of teaching others. That publication will serve to strengthen our faith, increase our appreciation, because it is going to help us see better how things are being fulfilled now, and how in the future, even more so, our appetite is whetted to see how things will be fulfilled then. And of course, as mentioned, we're looking forward to receiving shortly the new textbook benefit from the Theocratic Ministry School education. And we're all looking forward now to progressing even more in that theocratic school. Now, you may have heard about it, you may not have, but a new video cassette was released in the Russian language at this time, Faithful Under Trials, Jehovah's Witnesses in the Soviet Union. But knowing all the Brotherhood enjoys these things, after September of this year, then this video cassette will be available to the brothers and sisters. And what a record of faithful endurance all of those years under the Soviet Union. And that's why things continue to move along today, because excellent groundwork was laid for the brothers and sisters there. So the faithful slave is presenting these publications so as to enhance our ability to carry out our teaching commission. Now, something that needs to be kept in mind regarding this great commission is that we are to fulfill it under all circumstances. Now, you recall the Apostle Paul said, preach the word, be at it urgently, in favorable season, in troublesome season. So he acknowledged here that whether we had to do this preaching and teaching in a favorable season or troublesome season, we should do it with a sense of urgency. A favorable season would mean we're carrying out our preaching and teaching when we can do so conveniently. No obstructions or hindrances. That we can do it while it's safe, while we have freedom, while people may be giving a listening ear. But doing it in a troublesome season means just the opposite. It means carrying out this work when it is inconvenient, when it's dangerous, when we're in prison, if it comes to that, when there's no response and they're turning a deaf ear, when even we're doomed or sentenced to death. This Great Commission goes on. But all of that is under a troublesome season. And Jesus set the example. At John 7:7, he said, the world has no reason to hate you, but it hates me, because I bear witness concerning it that its works are wicked. So he pinpointed why there would be opposition and why troublesome seasons would come in, and that not everyone would welcome our preaching of the good news. That in fact, many would turn their ears away from the truth. They would turn away to false stories. And we see much of that today, people being carried away by the various winds and teachings of higher learning, modernist ideas and philosophies, and this so-called social gospel. And they want to accumulate teachers to tickle their ears, titillate their fantasies, and give them a lot of fictional ideas that will never come about. But we take the opposite point of view. And that no matter how difficult or troublesome the season for preaching becomes, we're going to move right ahead. And some of our brothers and sisters faced this in the past. Some of them faced it today. It's not new. In fact, shortly after Jesus gave that grand teaching commission, in the book of Acts chapter 4, it shows right away the religious leaders stepped up to make it difficult for those there at Pentecost to do that preaching. And there in Acts chapter 4, starting at verse 17, it says, nevertheless, in order that it may not spread abroad further among the people, let us tell them with threats not to speak anymore upon the basis of this name to any man at all. With that, they call them and charge them nowhere to make any utterance or to teach upon the basis of the name of Jesus. So we see right away the religious leaders stepped up to try and oppose, and it said they did it with threats and intimidation and told them fully that they were to stop. This is not unlike the situation that some of our brothers face today. For the past 2 service years, our brothers and sisters in the Republic of Georgia, formerly part of the Soviet Union, have been subjected to all sorts of harassments, beatings, disruption to their meetings and assemblies, having their literature confiscated and burned. But those 15,000 brothers and sisters there have not been intimidated, not even by religious leaders. The defrocked Russian Orthodox priest who has taken the lead in this opposition, back on May 11 of this year, went on television and made the following statement. He says, I am gravely warning all of Georgia and the population, especially the representatives of the sect of Jehovah, not to gather together and not to hold their satanic meetings. Although I am forbidding to go to them, my parishioners will come, and after today, their terrible pogroms will begin. So in other words, he is announcing by threats that even though the government had put him under a little so-called house arrest, that his followers were going to move ahead, and move ahead they did. Just a few weeks after that, the home and meeting place of some of our brothers and sisters there at 2:30 a.m. in the morning was doused with gasoline and burned to the ground. Thanks to Jehovah, the 11 members of that family were able to get out safe. It destroyed their meeting place, but it has not intimidated them. In fact, documented with that incident, 64 specific attacks, mob violence, disruption, beatings have taken place there, but it has not intimidated these 15,000 brothers and sisters there. They continue to meet week after week, making it known whose house they will meet in next. They can't build kingdom halls or have other places there, even though the government says they're legal. The religious opposition is determined to wipe them out. They've misconstrued the information, but these scores of attacks documented at 64 in the past few years have not intimidated these faithful brothers and sisters. They continue to gather together in meetings. They continue to carry out their part of this great divine teaching commission. What an example for all of us today. You heard earlier that the court case involving the Moscow trial, we were victorious back earlier in this year. However, just this past week, on the prosecution's appeal of the decision, we suffered a defeat. It was overturned, and so we go back to square one. That's in the city of Moscow, not all of Russia. What they're trying to do is wipe out the work in the city of Moscow, different from all the rest of Russia, to keep us from having kingdom halls and assembly halls by not really recognizing us as a religious organization. And they're using mischief by law to do so. But now, very interestingly, the brothers there have pressed ahead. In April, taking now all of Russia, they reached a new peak of 116,402 publishers there. They continue to move ahead in their work and their part in this divine commission. And despite the various obstacles and hardship, the work there in that part of Eastern Europe is moving ahead. In addition, right next door in the Ukraine, they reached an excellent peak for their memorial attendance. 282,358 attended. What an excellent potential for future growth. In fact, there in the Ukraine, May 19th of this year, a new branch facility was dedicated, and the society had arranged special meetings there, and they had a total of attendance of over 72,000. And so that now you have over there 117,692 publishers. That's a new peak. Satan can't stop it, neither can his religious agents. They're moving ahead, carrying out this divine teaching commission. Other countries in Eastern Europe, too, have done quite well. And in some parts of Europe, rather than so much physical persecution, they're using legal battles, and pressure from opposers are coming upon our brothers. And one attack is through the media. We're being misrepresented in reports in the press. And so you have such headlines screaming in parts of Europe, 10 most dangerous sects in all of the country. And many of these newspapers have listed Jehovah's Witnesses as a dangerous sect. And so we're greatly misrepresented in some places. And our brothers are experiencing this troublesome season in places like the Congo, Kinshasa, Estonia, France, Indonesia, and India. But even though they are working in a troublesome season, when it's either unsafe or dangerous, definitely not convenient, the work continues to move right ahead. Over in the African lands, the big thing there is they're seeing many New Kingdom halls going up, and this has enabled the meeting attendance to soar, actually doubling or tripling in many places. And it's the generous contributions from the brothers primarily in the Western world and other more prosperous lands that are enabling this work to be done there. Of interest now, coming back to our own country, we're getting the results here too. They may not always be as dramatic as in other places, but we're always judging things by our memorial attendance. And we're very happy to say we reached a peak this past memorial in the USA in attendance, 2,163,602. So we still have great potential, 11,533 congregations. So there's every need to keep moving ahead so as to show our full desire to submit to Jehovah's way of actually doing things. Now, as brought out at this convention, all of us in view of the time want to be fine teachers. And we have to say it's already happening, and no one should draw the conclusion that we don't have many fine teachers. For example, since the year 1990, we have added to the organization 3,200,000 new ministers. Well, they've been taught to observe all the things that Christ commanded. So when we look at the big picture, we're moving right ahead in this all-important work. Now, what this assembly has encouraged us to do is to think of the possibilities if we make more return visits and if we start and conduct more Bible studies. So it's not that the field is drying up, but as we continue to see the urgency of it and redouble our efforts, then it's evident Jehovah can bless us with finding more who want to be taught. And he equips us to do so. Look at the fine provisions he's made. In the congregation, we have gifts in men, the elders, and they're qualified to teach. He also provides us the circuit assemblies, special assembly day programs, and conventions like this help us with our teaching so that we can succeed. He's showing that if we want to move ahead, then we have to give priority to Bible reading, study, and research. Many of our programs have encouraged us to do the same thing. And others see how this is helping us. A Russian theologian made this observation, quoting him. He says, "To Jehovah's Witnesses, the Bible is the Constitution, the civil code, and the highest expression of truth." And even the New Catholic Encyclopedia had this note in it regarding Jehovah's Witnesses. It said, they regard the Bible as their only source of belief and rule of conduct. So very clearly then, Jehovah's making the provisions for us. Others are seeing it. We're moving forward, fulfilling this divine teaching commission. But now, what is needed individually if we're going to surge ahead now? 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 15 and 16 give the answer. Now here's what Paul said there. This is what we need to do individually. He says, ponder over these things. Be absorbed in them, that your advancement may be manifest to all persons. Pay constant attention to yourself and to your teaching. Stay by these things, for by doing this, you will save both yourself and those who listen to you. Now notice there Paul said, pay constant attention to ourselves, but then he told us what to do individually. He said, ponder over these things. That is, these things pertaining to our ministry, our Great Commission. What does it mean to ponder? Well, quite literally, it means be in them. In other words, be in these things that have to do with our ministry and our commission. It's telling us that our life work ought to center around these things, that this is our greatest aim in life, and that our time and attention and talents need to be absorbed in these duties related to our ministry and thus our divine commission. One reference work summed it up this way, striving to capture the idea of being absorbed in these things and describing the type of person that would be when it said this: he who has one great purpose of life to which he patiently and steadily devotes himself, and to which he makes everything else bend, will uniformly rise to the highest respectability, if not to eminence. So that's the key to making advancement. That's the key to being absorbed in our Christian duties and obligations. It's not using the world to the full, but instead, as it said, making everything else bend to that one great purpose in life. And right now, that is defined to be into these things, to be fully involved, to be fully absorbed in these things so as to move ahead in imitation of our great exemplar, Jesus Christ. And Paul gave us the incentive there. He said by doing so, we can save both ourselves and those who listen to us. So clearly then, that's what is needed now on our part. And all of us are very favored in that we've become a part of an international brotherhood that in these last days are being taught by Jehovah. And thus, as we leave this convention, we need to reflect appreciatively on our great privilege to be teachers of God's Word. We need to remember that we want to use that Word daily. It's what we're guided by. If we're parents, we need to be teaching it in the home. If we're children, we need to be listening and learning from parents. If we're overseers, we should keenly feel our obligation to become more qualified and even better at teaching the congregation. With appreciative hearts, then, we realize that we benefit ourselves by constantly learning from Jehovah, who right now, by means of his great teaching, is fashioning us to even be more effective in the days ahead so that we can continue teaching others. And we look forward to the future, not knowing fully what is in store in every detail, but we do have confidence that our grand instructor will continue to teach us. And with that in mind, the organization plans next year to sponsor again district conventions in all parts of the earth during the year 2002, if that is Jehovah's will, so that his grand teaching program continues, and so that we learn how we can better carry it out. And so may all of us be effective teachers of God's Word, and we can, because we're striving to imitate our grand instructor, Jehovah. And you recall his son said the following: a pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone that is perfectly instructed will be like his teacher. Luke 6:40. And that's the truth. And how thankful we are that our great teacher, Jehovah God, is perfectly instructing us to teach ourselves, to teach others, and the grand benefit of that is that we will draw closer to him, becoming more like him, gain his approval, and thus be in a position to glorify and praise our grand instructor throughout all eternity and forever.
All 23,587 of us, thank you very much, Brother Brown, for reviewing the spiritual blessings that we have received at this convention and for spurring us on to fulfill our teaching commission. As teachers of God's Word, we appreciate profoundly our great privilege of knowing the truth and sharing it with others. We are grateful for the spiritual blessings received at this convention and for the refreshing and encouraging association that we have enjoyed with our brothers and sisters in the faith. It was a delight to witness the baptism of new ones who have taken a stand on the side of the truth. Indeed, how good it is to be a part of the wonderful worldwide brotherhood that Jehovah has raised up in these last days.